Welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I am your host, Mary Czarnecki, and today I am so excited to introduce you to my special guest expert. Sarah Tjoa is here, and she has over 15 years of experience in agencies, both big and small. And Sarah has proven that she knows how to build impactful campaign platforms, not only driving conversion, but also business impact. So welcome, Sarah. So excited to have you here on the show.
Mary, so excited to be here today.
Amazing. So I know we were talking before we hit record about a couple of things that I'm excited to dig into today. But before we get to some of those topics about turning boring business decisions into key opportunities and aligning business results with purpose, I know there are going to be people who are listening to this episode who know you, but some people may be meeting you for the first time. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing right now and the problems you're solving?
No, of course, Mary. Thanks so much. So, as you mentioned, gosh, 15 years, that really ages you, doesn't it?
I know, only
Read back to you is truly something. But really, I have lived in the chaotic world of agencies for over 15 years, working on what I would call the growing portfolio of the good life brands. I've worked on sports teams, hotels, tourism, travel, restaurants, like all sorts of, and a lot of in between in all of that. And I found my home at Noble West, which is an agency that specializes in food and agricultural products, which I think food is a universal language to a lot of folks. And I am a foodie at heart. So it's great to have found my home. And really the work that I do at Noble West is aggregating my experience across developing out unique and distinctive brand platforms and campaigns, again, across this good life portfolio and bringing it to food and agriculture, which I would not say is necessarily known for its prowess in marketing. So we talk a lot about what we do at Noble West is bringing kind of modern marketing sensibilities to the oldest economy. How do we talk about how food is grown? I think there's a renewed interest in everyone wanting to know where their food is grown, knowing their farmer's market person. Everyone has an avocado guy or gal. And so a lot of what we do at Noble West is trying to bridge that gap at more commercial scale. And so a lot of my day to day looks like talking with many of our different clients who often are not marketing people and helping them to understand how marketing can take their value or take their business and some of the decisions they've made to the next level.
I love that. So that's where I want to dig in with you today, because I know we've got folks listening here who are marketing experts. And for you guys, definitely, we're going to have some tips and ideas to inspire you today. But I know there are also people who listen to this show specifically because they didn't grow up in marketing, right? They aren't trained and bred marketers. And so when you're working, like you said, with some of your clients that are CEOs or operations focused, where do you start trying to build the bridge and get them to start thinking about the opportunities of marketing?
No, that's a great question. And honestly, what I think is so interesting about it is it's a very interesting place to start. I am a strategist by trade, and so much of what I do is in like love running in a problem. Take me into a burning building Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and sometimes on Sunday. But I think when you get to start with critical conversations with a C-suite or even folks in finance or operations or at the C-level that we often work with, the problems are not things that creative solutions fix for. We're looking at business problems. And my entire career, I think anyone that is in marketing that's worth their salt will tell you you need to know the business challenges before you can come up with the marketing solution. And when we get to start at Noble West working with sort of these C-level executives or folks in operations and finance, the problems they bring you are very different than the briefs that I was getting maybe 10 years ago, which was like splashy Super Bowl, or I want to activate at this moment and I want consumer buzz. And look, those are fun briefs. But honestly, there's something so rewarding about some of our clients that say, I have an idea for this new product. I've invested in this piece of equipment. And honestly, I'm trying to tinker with how we make sure the product is perfect, but I have no idea how to talk about that. And those are really the decisions that we get into. And a lot of where we start is a little bit of brand strategy 101. You have to know the who you're dealing with, the what they're doing, the how they do it. But so much of what we try to engineer is the why of it all. How do we get it? Why? What was the impetus for some of our clients making some of these decisions? What does that translate to in terms of value for a consumer on the other side of it? And that's really the unlock. I talk a lot about the margins for any of our business being in the why. When you work in food and you're selling an artichoke or an egg or a this, It's like, these are what they are. It is brand 101. There are certain brands or products that you know that you buy of these hero ingredients that you buy simply because they've been marketed that way. And a lot of what we do at Noble West and my mission is to make sure that we really understand how we're building those margins around why a client decided to buy a business, to buy a piece of equipment or make an investment in this kind of proprietary part of the food processing process that allows them to say, I'm trying to make a mom's life easier. I'm trying to make it easier for this person to access good quality gluten-free ingredients. And those are the interesting stories we get to tell. So I would say that where a lot of that starts for me is in, you got to be curious. You have to be willing to be a little bit dumb in the room and ask some good questions up front.
Exactly, because you're, in a way, I'm hearing you say, to be acting dumb is to be stepping into the shoes of their audience that doesn't know what questions to ask, that are going to be the ones receiving this information while they're trying to manage all the other things in their life and thinking about your client's product is not top of the list for them, right?
Exactly. And it's so fascinating. I will say this. I have spent so much of my career wanting to not like, I don't think I'm unique in this to say, Mary, but I want to be so well read up. I want to understand the category, understand the competitors. What are the trends? What are the headlines? What is in the cultural zeitgeist that is impacting how someone, but I have had to learn as a leader in this organization and to be the best strategist is that I have to be willing to be a little dumb. I have to be willing to be open to learning more and to be open to possibilities. And that's one of the biggest unlocks that I can teach anyone is to be willing to be taught and understanding how that can impact and really change the way that you approach sort of strategies, creative, what have you for marketing.
Amazing. I really appreciate you saying that. And one of the other things that you brought up too is this question of why. So I always mention this to all our listeners and watchers here. Get your sticky notes out because here comes the gold that Sarah's going to drop on you in a second. So
Mine are pink, by the way. So
yes, I love it. I love it. Grab them. But you mentioned why being the unlock. Not what do we have to talk about, or what's the new news, or what's the new launch. I was just talking to a former client of mine about trying to get her team to understand that the new message that they want to get out is not, we're now available at Walmart. Our audience does not care. What's the message? So when she went to her team and she's, okay, what's the core message? What's the core benefit promise? We're going to be really focused on this quarter. They're like, we're now available in Walmart. She's like, no, that's not the why. So I really appreciated you really focusing on that why. So when you're doing this with your clients, and so, a little takeaway for the folks listening to this, what are some of those questions that you're asking that help someone who maybe doesn't think that way to start to articulate that, to get deeper than here's what we want to say versus what does our audience need to hear?
Yeah.
How do you get there?
Absolutely. And I think where I'll start with is it's the rule of three. You need to ask why on probing something 3 times to really get to the root of it. And that's it does feel a little bit like speaking to a toddler. But let's renew the idea of curiosity and the asking of why into really that being a funnel to get to the unearth. And that's a lot of design thinking 101 for those that might be familiar with sort of that. But Mary, you're right. It's not about the core message of we're at Walmart or we're at this. Here's the thing. There are very few unique products that enter market. There are very few new and actually remarkably new, unique items that ever enter experiences. So whenever a client does this, and here's a list of features and benefits, and here's a list of why us, and our credibility, and our certifications, and all these things, someone else can compete with you on any number of those things. So why does it matter to your core product who might be a mom? She gets to have this particular product that has so many different really organic ingredients. Okay, why does that matter? Because she has a family to feed. Okay, why does that matter? Because she cares about their health. Why does that matter? Because healthy families help the world thrive. And then you're asking why and all these things, and what is a list of features and benefits, which honestly anyone can replicate or compete on, become emotional tethers that you can then wrap into an ownable narrative that is significantly more human. Look, I know that we're all worshiping at the altar of AI is going to take over everything, but honestly, the human side of brands can never be beat by anything in AI. And if you can be curious enough to continue to ask why, which is, here's another sticky note, if you're just going into ChatGPT and asking it one thing and then getting the answer and not really digging into that, you're missing a whole other opportunity there. But there is so much to be uncovered by being rigorous and continuing to ask the question of why. And again, the rule of three of why to get to that will often take a list of things and create insight.
Amazing. All right. I hope you guys are filling up those sticky notes here. So I want to go back a little bit to some of your clients that are the CEOs, the C-suites, not the marketing leaders.
Yeah.
And the fact that they sometimes come to you with the not sexy creative challenges, like the boring business challenges. So, do you have a favorite story of maybe one of those scenarios where someone's come to you with one of those kind of boring business decisions or kind of business challenges that
Yeah.
then you had to turn into a marketing opportunity?
Of course. So I think that the most common one that we see in our business, again, working in food, is around I have invested in this new piece of technology or equipment that honestly is usually in the vein of efficiency or food safety. Those are important stories. Everyone likes an efficient product and everyone cares about food safety, but really those are not sexy marketing stories. No one wants to come out and be like, I have made your food safer, because that is honestly an indication that it was not safe to begin with. So we don't, again, good investments. And honestly, every food company is making those kinds of investments or they should be. And so more often than not, it is in the vein of efficiency, food safety, increasing yield, making sure that we can get more product and availability. So very often we get those kinds of stories. And I think one of the more recent ones that we're working on and is actually hitting shelves across the West, the Western Seaboard, and then also in the Northwest, Northeast, is an investment in just how do we create this new product that makes artichokes easier to access. I think all of us, for those of you that grew up with artichokes, you knew that they're like, oh my gosh, they take so long to cook. They're a little bit complicated. And I know we're working with a client, Ocean Mast Farms, and they're the largest grower of artichokes in the US. And they're trying to make them more accessible to folks so that we can usher in a new era of artichoke appreciations and aficionados by creating an approachable product that honestly just lowers the burden of being the cooking burden. I think that all of us know that time is money, and no one seems to have a lot of time, as much time anymore, especially if you're a working mother or just a working woman at all. It doesn't seem like time is a valuable commodity for you anymore. And so any sort of availability that we have to press the button of, I'm trying to make sure that you still have access to all these really great nostalgic foods and things that you love, but in new and invigorating ways. And this is an example of an investment in technology that just makes the artichoke easier to prep. And look, again, it started with the machine. We call it machines and dreams. And again, it's how are we creating products that are more uniquely accessible and mitigate the labor and also the cognitive load it takes to understand what to do with this thing. And I'm thinking about the image of an artichoke and how complicated sometimes they can be.
I think that's such a great example too, because there's kind of two parts of that market you're talking about, right? It's the people who have the nostalgia, who have that memory structure, who've experienced an artichoke before. Then there's also that part of the market that maybe has seen them on the shelf. And
Yep.
I wouldn't even know what to do with that. I am also a foodie. I will self-profess that I'm a foodie and that my 11-year-old knows the difference between a tenderloin and a T-bone. So,
We need to do a pat on the back for Mary for that, because that is parenting, true parenting.
yeah, it was a big moment in our house where he made the first three-course dinner for me. So that was very impressive.
Amazing.
But even I will walk through a grocery store because I'm impressed with the selection, especially in the produce department these days.
Yeah.
I have walked, and I am a fairly well-traveled person. I know what a rambutan looks like. So
Favorite
I've
fruit.
walked through the produce section and been like, I don't know what that is. There have been things that I'm like, I don't even know what it is. But in a produce department in general, you walk over, you have the thing, but it doesn't come with an instruction booklet. So
No.
I think that's so interesting that you and your client are working on this problem of we've got people that want it, but are limited by, look, this thing takes a lot of time based on what I remember to cook. And then people who may just see it and not even know where to start with it. So
Totally.
I love that reminder of we have to put ourselves in their experience. It's about their reality,
Mhm.
not about us.
And I think what's also so fun, selfishly, about we get to do is that we are creating what these products and these experiences get to be. If you're not in the produce aisle and you're some other aisles of the grocery store, there's a whole bunch of products. You're like, how did this end up here? And I don't know that the world asked for this. Protein lemonade. Hot take, no one needs protein in their lemonade. Just go find it somewhere else. In Greek yogurt, steak, even T-bones. We love that. But the products that often we work with our clients in creating, because we work specifically in like hero ingredients, are so in the vein of how are we just like introducing folks to new kinds of food in the produce aisle that maybe they don't remember or they didn't have access to. And Mary, I love that you're pointing out the diversity in that aisle is getting greater and greater, because that's so much of our goal too, is just how do we, again, I think food is universal. So while it's very like specific and sacred to me and our work at Noble West, it's nice to be able to talk about it in the vein of broader marketing, because I think all of us want our food system to be stable. We all want better products in our bodies. And the way that starts is in produce sections where you can get access to other different kinds of foods. So much of what we get to do is dream a little bit with these C-level executives who just know that there's a better way to do it. And we get to play marketing and product and a little bit of operations to bring that dream to life.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. I just have one more quick question before we wrap up our episode today. And I guess that would be, with all of this, right? Where do you go to stay up to date? I know that you mentioned before everyone's overwhelmed by the AI information out there. Obviously, you have to keep up with whatever industry you're in. How do you personally stay up to date or stay inspired and informed? And what do you see working for you?
So I am trying to get better reading things, like as opposed to just listen. I'm a diehard podcast person. So I love Substack right now. That's the app that I'm keeping open. And I'm trying to do that instead of doom scrolling. But there is one particular strategist that I admire, and Zoe Scaman does a Musings of a Wandering Mind Substack that is specifically on strategy. And she takes an AI lens, but Substack is probably where I'm going, because I just love that it's basically the democratization of information and point of view. And as someone, again, who is just obsessed with differing points of views and discourse around all of that, Substack is where I'm going right now to figure all of that out.
Amazing. Amazing. If you ever, you don't have a Substack going, do you?
I'm working on that. That is
Okay.
going to be, and it is working around the idea of how are you figuring out what I call your isms, the things that are ingrained to you, and an entire sort of little bit of an exploration around that. So more to come there.
I love that. We're going to stay tuned. So when you launch that, let us know. We'll do an
I will.
episode too.
I love it.
So,
Thank
all
you
right.
so much, Mary. This has been great.
No, it's been wonderful having you here. I know you've given people a full sticky note set of ideas and inspiration today. And we are going to include, for those of you watching and listening to this, Sarah's information and links, how to get in touch with her. But if you were going to call out one specific way that's the best way to really follow up with you after this session, what would that be, Sarah?
Oh, email. Email is the best way to find me.
Okay.
Find me there.
All right, terrific. So we'll include that with our episode. And as always, thank you so much for joining us, Sarah, as our expert guest today.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. Have a great day.
Thank you. And for those of you watching and listening, appreciate you being here, following, listening, watching the Sticky Note Marketing Show. If you found value in today's episode, share it with a friend, comment, subscribe, and I would love to see those comments on this episode. Did you have a question? Was there something Sarah specifically said that really resonated with you? Let us know. Your feedback means the world to us. So looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show.